So a startup independent brokerage just 8 months ago and a couple weeks ago surpassing 110 million closed. I'm here with my really good friend, Preston Guyton, who is of Palms Realty and Easy Home Search. And we could talk for days, but we'll go down the path of this amazing story that will continue to unfold, and I would encourage you all to watch. Welcome to the Cheplak Live podcast, Preston. Thanks for being here, bud.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's great, great being here. So I guess I'll just go back to kind of how I got into real estate and how that started, and then fast forward, obviously, to Palms Realty. Is that a good place to go?
You bet. Let her rip, bud.
Okay, cool. So I got into real estate in 2004. When I first got into real estate, we live in Myrtle Beach. So Myrtle Beach is a very transient market. A lot of people moving here from different markets, a lot of people, searching online. So right away, I wanted to figure a way to get in front of them. And one of the things I focused on early on was website growth, SEO. And there was an old site, you might remember this site, but the first site I developed was a template site. It was Z57. Which was a Z57 site. And it had a little, like at the beginning, it had a little, I don't know, sound to it and a little short video, but that was the first site I developed. And then from there, I had a lot of success with that, but it was a template site. There wasn't a much, customization with it. It was just base template stuff. And so I started searching online and stumbled across the SEO guy. He had a bunch of sites that he custom sites, and the SEO guy is actually somebody I think that coached with you for a bit, is Morgan Carey. So Morgan Carey, the first site, he was SEOguy.com. And so I found him and we worked. And it's funny, when I see Morgan now, or I saw him a couple of years ago, he joked like, yeah, your site was the first one that was over $5,000. So, he went on to launch Real Estate Webmasters. And so I always focused on SEO and SEO growth. And that's kind of how my real estate career started. Continued to focus on those things, content, link building, and all that. 2006, I got my contractor's license and still sold real estate as well, but started building spec houses in 2006. Probably wasn't the greatest idea. So 2006, 7, and 8, during that time, I had to sign some loans back to the bank and got on the other side of 2008 and had $400,000 in debt and no real estate owned. And I ended up paying that off. I never filed bankruptcy or anything, but 2008, met my wife, got married. We had our daughter in 2009 and launched CRG Companies in 2010, which was something that I always look at like a problem and then what's the solution. So that was something, with CRG Companies, we focused on construction, real estate, green. So green technologies. One thing I noticed too is a lot of builders actually sold a property and the builder closed on it and they actually delivered the appliances after, and they scraped up the floors and never came back and fixed it. So one of the things I want to focus on with CRG was creating a company with higher standards. And that's where that company launched. 2010 to 15, we didn't really focus much on real estate because I was concerned that realtors would not send us leads or send us clients because we were also a general brokerage company. And then I quickly realized realtors don't care as long as you pay them commission check. So, we actually in 2015, we started focusing more on general brokerage. I hired Rainbow, who you obviously know and coached with for a bit. We focused on building an inside sales team. So we went to an inside sales conference because for me, I always go outside of, the box. Like I want to build an inside sales team. I'm like, well, I don't want to take instruction from a real estate company, do it, half-ass. I went to this inside sales conference where we were, it was Rainbow and myself, and we're here, 2-person, 3-person ISA team. And it's like Cisco's there, Microsoft's there, and all these big companies. So that's where we started. And from 2015, I think that year we did about 12 million in sales on general brokerage. And then when I sold out of CRG in 2020, we did 130 million in sales and 25 million roughly in custom construction sales. So with me, for the reason why I got out of that, I just construction for me, and I'm one person that if I'm not having fun doing it, I'm not going to continue doing it. It's just, it's just not about the money. And really that's the least, that's really what I care about the least. I mean, I obviously care about money, but it's not why I'm going to continue to do something. So I get, just construction became such a, with permitting and everything else, it just wasn't fun anymore. So in 2019, my wife and I brought Revolution to the market, partnered with some local loan officers here. In 2021, Revolution in Myrtle Beach was the #1 branch in all of America for Revolution Mortgage. And then during that time, I started Easy Home Search, obviously, and that's what I focus on now. And October of last year, we launched Palms Realty, or September of last year, we launched Palms Realty. And so that's what I do now. I'm Chief Visionary Officer for Palms Realty, and I'm the founder and the broker for Easy Home Search, which we cover all the MLSs in North Carolina, South Carolina. We just launched an app last week, and we're about to launch a lot more MLSs in Georgia as well.
So Easy Home Search portal where you're offering leads out geographically outside your marketplace to other brokerages?
That's correct. Yeah. So we actually took over. I had somebody else doing the SEO for a while, and it was always, I was a kid growing up, like I enjoyed sports, but I also enjoyed like video games and computers and all these things and fixing computers and everything else. So when I look at a lot of like SEO things and analytics and study all of that, to me, it's like video games. So I'm like, logging on every day at 4 a.m. and checking things and creating content outlines and, looking at linking opportunities and all these things. But yeah, that's what it covers, all the MLSs in North and South Carolina right now. I just got licensed in Georgia. It'll be in all the MLSs in Georgia. And last month, I think we had 200,000 sessions, roughly, 120,000 users. And then the app, we've had about 200 downloads in about 6 days. But yeah, that's what
on Easy Home Search.
On Easy Home Search.
Yeah. Wow. So let's go a little bit deeper there before we get into the deeper aspects of Palms Realty and this growth trajectory, because SEO is an area that people can get a little bit over their skis and they can hire the wrong person and all those types of things. How much time, certainly, as people have heard you share already, I mean, you've been working in the SEO space for years and years and years. How much time are you personally spending a day in the SEO space?
Probably about 2 hours a day.
2 hours a day. And then on top of it, because we're talking about all this traffic, on top of it, you've got other people around you supporting that work too in the SEO space, correct?
Correct. Yeah, there's no way I could do it all. I mean, we create about 100,000 words of content a month. We create about 2,000 static pages a month. We create a ton of link building opportunities. So there's obviously a lot. What I mainly do is content outlines and build the structure and the architecture for the link building and all that. So, and then obviously in the space we're in now, there's freelancers, there's VAs and, everything else. Like I have 4 VAs, 2 freelancers, so there's the ability to do all of these things. I mean, you still got to put in the work, and SEO is painful. It's, like I talk to people about it. It's kind of like working out. Like you're going to work out. Most people work out for a month or 2 and expect results, and they're not going to see a 6-pack, and they may never see one, but it's something that you have. Like I've been pushing hard on Easy Home Search since January of last year. And I'd already been focusing on SEO, but really like pushing hard on it. And, in the last 14 months, our organic traffic has gone from probably 1,500 a month to over 60, 70, 80,000 a month right now. And then direct traffic and pay-per-click, we're at about 170,000 sessions a month. So it's about 1,000. No, I think it's like, if you just look at organic, I think over 14 months, it was like a 6,000% growth rate or something like that.
Wow.
But I mean, that's the thing about it. Like what I'm doing, though, isn't rocket science, right? It's just committed to doing the work and committed to doing the work. And like, it's not fun. I'm not going to sit here and say creating content outlines and, doing all these things is fun, but it works. You know what I mean? And I think that's what happens a lot of time when people or companies sell SEO. they make it sound like this secret thing that only they know about, but really it's not. Like Google likes content, but they like content that's, they don't, the 600 word blogs or 800 word blogs that everybody puts out there, they don't work anymore. They want real content, real unique content. Like a majority of the blogs we put out there are 1,200 words to 3,000 words,
Wow.
like highly detailed information. And it's just the structure of it. I mean, it works no matter what market you're in. We show up now in a majority of all the cities in North and South Carolina for keywords like Myrtle Beach home for sales, Myrtle Beach oceanfront condos for sale. We show up just below Zillow in organic. And you go into all the cities, Greenville, Columbia, Charleston, Wilmington, Charlotte, Raleigh, we're starting to show up like that as well. And I just signed last week to redesign the site, and that was a little bit gut wrenching. As you know, anything you build custom is painful. But
Yeah.
it's what I like to invest in, and I see that investment is investing in the Palms as well, investing into growing our team, and it's what I enjoy to do.
Really good. And then you launched Palms in September. What made you decide to do that? It's a highly competitive marketplace. You're a successful businessman in many different aspects, from mortgage to your easy home search. And then you look at the margins in the real estate industry and opening up an independent brokerage. What made you decide to do that?
It's what I love. It's what I enjoy. You look back at, like, I'm not going to go back into my previous life and the things that I did before I got into real estate, but real estate in a lot of ways saved my life. I was in some places where I really didn't need to be before I got into real estate. You and I kind of discussed that.
Sure.
And it's what I love, and it's what I'm passionate about, and it's what I enjoy. And I was in the mortgage space for about 2 years, and I realized that I don't really enjoy this. It's not. I like numbers, but I don't like sitting down. I like constantly moving, and it just wasn't the way the mortgage space is advertised and everything else. It just wasn't something I really enjoyed. And actually, initially with Palms, I just kind of helped Josh and Nick. Like, Josh and Nick they worked with me at CRG, the company I was with before. Josh actually hired. He was a kids. He taught. He was a kids minister at a church. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but before we got into real estate. And so that was 6 years ago. Had zero real estate experience, and I think his 6th year in real estate, he sold like 20 million. So his trajectory, because he listened, if you listen to it and follow through on the work, you'll be successful. I mean, hard work works every time. I mean, if you pick up the phone, whatever like I tell a lot of them, whatever you want is on the other side of that phone. All you got to do is pick up the phone and put in the work, and whatever you want to achieve, whether it's monetary or whatever you want to achieve in life, is just pick up the phone and do the work that most people won't do. So Nick and Josh, they wanted to launch an independent brokerage and help them throughout that process. And then just doing the things and focus on the things that you teach all the time, and staying committed to. I think what a lot of people struggle with is hiring the correct leaders, or hiring a leadership team, or hiring that admin team, or trusting to give somebody else. EOS is something else we run, and we ran it at CRG as well. And that was something else. Like, whenever I go to these conferences like yours, I always go to them and I always implement at least one thing every time we go, and it's easy to go to these things and get all excited and like, I'm going to go back and do all these things. Well, 90% of people don't. So one of the things that I think it was 2018, Dan Beer and Laura, is Laura correct? Yeah.
Yes, Laura Bronca in
Laura
Vegas.
Bronca. We're actually interviewing her next week on the podcast.
Good job.
Yeah, she's amazing. Dan's amazing. They were up there talking about EOS, and I'm sitting there, I'm just listening to it. I'm like, man, this sounds exciting. So when we left, there was an EOS conference in Atlanta 2 months later. So we got back to Myrtle Beach, booked that conference, went to Atlanta to learn more about EOS, and we fully implemented. And the same thing at Palms. Like, most companies jump from fire to fire. They don't take care of what needs to be taken care of. Things like correct operations manual and all these systems kind of get pushed to the side and kick the can down the road. And that's something early on at Palms that we focused on doing, was getting all those things in place. So, what I told them, I was like, we need to get to a point to where, although we're not sure if we're going to do it, but we need to be franchisable within 12 months, meaning we need to have all the operations, all the systems in place to where, or so, for if something happened to me or whoever, that somebody else could step in that role and take over and continue on.
Yeah,
So that
really
was
good.
something we focused on early on. The first position we hired was a transaction coordinator.
Talk about,
that-
I want to go back though, because this is critical. That first decision is the make or break. Unpack for everyone if you were to look, because I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, both of these guys are knocking off 20 million a year roughly in sales volume.
Yeah, so Nick was, I think Nick last year did 30, 25, 26 million. Josh did right at 20 roughly.
Right. And so now you're bringing in producers,
Yeah.
okay, to be leaders. Unpack, as you look at the dynamic of these two guys, because they both came over and they're out there leading. Unpack the dynamic of these two personalities, what you saw in them, and because naturally they've contributed to this epic growth that's taken place. And how are they, because they're both still selling, right?
Yes.
And have supported the growth. Unpack that one, because that's a real mystery for most people. A, hiring good talent. B, then, gosh, they're still selling and leading and growing and pulling this off in 8 months.
Yeah, I mean, so they're business partners, right? So they're part owner in the company. They, I know them. Josh is a one of, as far as a broker in charge, he has empathy. He's somebody that wants to make sure that everybody's happy. He does all those things. As far as a broker in charge, he fits that. As far as dealing with the agents' personalities and the things they struggle with. I mean, he grew up in the church. He was part of the church. He was a youth minister. He has all those personality traits that, make him amazing at what he does. And then Nick's just a savage. Like, he's going to do whatever it takes. So, you got Josh as a broker in charge. And the idea was to get them out of sales within 12 months. They don't take buyer leads. They don't take any leads from the company anymore. The only thing they do are listings. So some of the things they've done is some of the things we've learned in your group. The one thing back in February, everybody did, and everybody's made, millions of probably dollars in commission from that one thing that was shared. And then you got Nick, who is now a savage in sales, but now Nick is in charge of recruiting. So, I mean, that's somebody who wakes up, breathes it, will do the work, will make the calls, will do all those things that are necessary. So it's, those two together, I mean, and that's a big reason why we are where we are today.
How many agents are you guys at right now? How many people have you guys brought on since day one?
I think we got another one this morning, so we're at 42.
42. Wow,
yeah.
Really, really good. And where will you end up? Where do you see yourself ending up in 2022? Well, let's go to September. What are we? We're June, July, August, 4 more months. How many agents do you think you guys have 12 months from the date you opened? Let's have some fun with this one.
Say 60 to 70.
Yeah, really good. This, and by no means discounting the operations, which you and I could go on for days, and I'm sure that we'll get on another one, because you get every aspect of the tech stack. That's why you're one of my Cheplak Live Select coaches. By the way, if you're listening to this and interested in coaching or exploring with coaching with Preston, you can go to preston.cheplaklivecoaching.com. There's a questionnaire there, but the tech stack's important. The operations are all important. All these, leads and the lead follow-up. But the most critical piece is bringing people in consistently and driving that productivity and that retention. What would you say has been the key factor in attracting agents to your organization?
I would say really it's putting the right leadership in place. Like, we hired, Josh and Nick, and right away I told Josh and Nick from the beginning, I was like, if we're running EOS, the most important part of EOS. Like there's visionaries, which I fit of the visionary, but integrators, that's the hardest head of operations integrator. And I knew Travis through the years, and I tried to hire him at a previous job I was at. And I was like, well, I want to hire him, but I don't really have anywhere for him to go. You know, like there's no really seat. I was trying to make up a seat just to bring him in the door because he's an amazing human. He's an amazing leader. He's amazing at what he does. You know, that he's going to sit down and coach people and do all the things. So bringing him on was instrumental in continuing the growth, and bringing Trip Love on as well, who is head of agent growth and development. And he runs early on for me and Josh and Nick. It was important to implement a program where we bring agents in. You know, we bring new agents in that are just licensed or maybe licensed within 6 months, and send them through an intensive like training course. And we have one now, the Agent Excellence Program, which is 8 weeks, 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's 9 o'clock, 8:30 until 1. And that's something that they could, and you know, doing those things, bringing in new agents and hiring based on, you know, personality traits or you know, how, like a lot of them will say grit, right? If they have the grit and they'll put in the work, then we could teach them real estate. It's a harder, you know, it's easier to teach real estate than it is to teach somebody to do the work that needs to be done, because some people just won't do it. It doesn't matter what you do. And you know this, you can't force somebody to do it.
No. So you brought on the transaction coordinator with Nick and Josh,
Yeah.
and then your next hire, Trip.
Was Trip, yeah, head of agent training and development, because early on we realized we wanted to build this program, and none of us, Josh was doing his thing, Nick was doing his thing, and obviously I'm doing a bunch of different things. I'm like, I can't dedicate the time to build this program out. None of us really could. I mean, we could help.
Was that like 90 or 120 days into launch? At what point did you bring on Trip to drive the agent training coaching?
90 days.
90 days in.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm talking to Josh about it, and I've been here, right? I don't, you know, and you've been there. Like, I'm not afraid to hire people. And, you know, to me, I'm like, you hire the people that don't make sense right now, but they make sense within 6 months. Like, it might be painful when you look at your P&L and look at what you got to pay them, but it's more painful 6 months down the road when you realize you needed that person 6 months ago. You know,
so I want you guys to hear what he just said. Hire to where you're going, not where you're at.
100%.
And then you continued on. So there's Trip, and he's been driving that. I've been fortunate to spend a bunch of time with him. You know, one of the things I just want to pass along to folks too, that you'll find, I've found, and hopefully somewhere along the line in one of our rooms where we're all together, you'll get to meet them. One common thread about all of them is humility. That's the one piece. I mean, they've got that hunt in them, and that nurture and the empathy, all those pieces, but humility. And so Trip, and then at what point, so that was about 90 days in. And then at what point, well, here's the other thing I want to point out too, that Preston does, and this isn't about my coaching or any coaching. This is whoever you coach with. We respect that and appreciate that. We're abundant guys. But talk about the financial investment. You didn't just bring people on with their role. Okay, now do your job, and told them to do their job. Like, I think before you were even open, the investment that you made in September in Tahoe, the investment you make in coaching, talk to people about, I think there's a breakdown. Bring people in, they should do the job, and I'll tell them to do their job, where you're just relentless about the constant development of them in their role, coaching, training, etc.
Yeah, I think a lot of leaders, they, you know, even if they do the coaching, the training, get it, but what they do is they get it themselves. And it's like, you know, to me, like, I can't deliver like John Cheplak does. I can't deliver personally like Bill Pipes does. I can't deliver like Dan Beer does. So I need them to be in that moment to see the person who's actually delivering, because those are the people that made the biggest impact on me personally and professionally over the last 5 years. Like, if you go 5 years ago before I went into coaching to where I'm at now, I'm a different person. Like, I wouldn't even want to be on this podcast 5 years ago. So I'm a lot different today than I was then. And I get a ton of happiness in seeing other people be successful. I get more joy in that, but also with Nick and Josh, it was, you know, we all live in this, well, Myrtle Beach, we live in this little fishbowl. they got to get outside, right? And to them, the thing that I said to Josh and Nick, you have to go to this. And they financially paid for it themselves. I'm like, you have to go to
Well, they
this
did.
because you need to see what is possible. And you cannot, I can tell you what's possible, but actually seeing, and I mean, some people need to see to believe, right? And I'm not that way, but
Most
I
do
was like,
though,
yeah,
Preston.
yeah.
Most do.
Yeah,
Sure.
100%.
Yeah.
And I know that. So I'm like, you guys need to go here because the numbers I was talking about and the things I was talking about doing and, getting to $1 billion company and in sales within so many years and getting to, 1,000 agents. I don't think that they got it, but it kind of they probably thought it was a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna go cuckoo, man.
Yeah,
Come
a lot of
on.
it crazy, but they went there and they came back like, man, now we understand. Now we see it. And that's something we did early on, and we continue obviously to coach with you and Bill Pipes, and we went to Nashville. We brought the whole crew there to that. We did the sales velocity. So there's all these things we continue to do, and that's something we'll always invest in. Like I look at it our P&L and see, and training and coaching and development is a pretty big line item, and it'll always be because at what point in a changing market, I mean, sometimes you might have these VAs or assistants or whatever. I'm prospecting again now, not because I have to, because I want to knock the rust off. And we implemented something where I came up with this 2 weeks ago, where the agents are coming in and prospecting with leadership 4 days a week. They sign up, each leader's there from 8:30 to 10. We prospect with them. If any leader qualifies a lead, we hand off to somebody that's there that day. And they get access to a pond that only exists for that group. And, that's something we're doing. So it's not only like, we could get up in front of the group and say, do this, do this, do this, do this. But we want to be in there with them. We want to be in there doing the things that we're preaching and telling them to do, and, make an example by doing those things ourselves.
Really good. So you're climbing along. All of a sudden, I remember a text, I don't know, maybe it's 4 months ago, like maybe it was sooner or longer ago, but sooner in the trajectory of growing the business.
I'm glad you don't charge me by text message.
I love it. That's what feeds me, man. I appreciate it. And we all, we're on that same length. You text me 4,
sure.
5:30, we're going.
Yeah.
I remember that text going, we're at 19 million, we might hit 20 million. And then you crested over that 20 million a month. At what point in time, again, staying in this, and I want people to hear this philosophy, I'm hiring to where I'm going. I'm not going to wait till my people are at 120%, burn them out and lose agents. See, being cheap, and where you may think you're being fiscally responsible, but really it's probably being cheap, is going to cost you in the long run, because you'll burn out your employees. Agents won't get the support that they want. And so the cost of it is 10 times what it is going forward. At what point did you say, okay, I need an operations manager in here? How long?
It's one of the things that I think I actually told Josh and Nick in October of last year. And again, they thought I was crazy as hell, but so I sat down with I just reached out to him on a whim, and I was like, man, would you want to go to lunch sometime? It was in December when I reached out to him. We went and had lunch, and I explained everything.
So not like, you're not even open 90 days, but your vision, hear this, you guys. It's like always be recruiting, always looking for talent. He's 90 days into a startup and has just hired a trainer and 2 leaders, business partners, and you're going out and you're meeting with a operations guy. So anyways, go with it. I just wanted people to hear that.
Yeah, so I went and met with him, taught him about the position, explained EOS integrator, what it all entailed, what EOS does for the business, and then what we were trying to achieve, and Travis and I, we went to lunch about 2 years ago, and it was just more, I guess you could look at it like what you talk about. The 2 years ago, I just went to meet the guy. I saw social media, and he seemed like somebody I wanted to be around, and so I just went and talked about his life and what he does and everything else, and really didn't pitch him on a job or hire. 2 years ago, it was just, hey, I just want to meet with you and sit down. And, we have a lot of common interests and I think a lot of mutual respect. And then reached out to him in December, went and sat with him. And he's like, man, this sounds exciting. He's like, he actually just turned 40 at the time. And he was like, I'm in a place in my life where I don't feel, I'm kind of complacent. I don't feel challenged. He's a guy, and he'll tell you on our podcast, we talk about it. He loves being challenged. Like he's, runs half marathons, runs marathons, ultimate races and all these things. And I actually committed to a half marathon. I don't know what the hell I was thinking with him, but
You got suckered in.
yeah. So actually about 15 people on our team are doing it. But I went and sat down with him and I called Josh and Nick. I'm like, we got to hire this guy. Like, I know y'all, I sent y'all the numbers and Josh is over there sweating, sending me like emojis with him sweating. I'm like, but we cannot afford not to hire this guy. It's not that we can't afford to hire this guy. We cannot not afford to hire this guy because he is going to get us. He is going to help us get there where we want to go. And I couldn't draw up or come up with a better person for this position. So yeah, he committed to hiring. He actually he re-enlisted in the Army as a reserve at 40 because he was in the Army out of high school. He re-enlisted and realized, oh shit, I got to go back to basic training because I've been out of the military for 15 years. So at 40, he goes back to basic training. And when he comes back from basic training, he actually starts 2 weeks later. And it's, it's phenomenal where we are now today from where we are 2 months ago, from where we were 6 months ago. And we just hired a recruiter. So we just hired a head of recruiter who started Tuesday of this week.
So let's take a look at this. Here we are, 8 months in. You have a director of training, you have an operations manager integrator, you got your 2 business partners who are operating as in the recruiting space and then as the broker and now a recruiter. How about ISA? What's that look like? Any ISAs to support the lead flow?
Yeah, so we actually manage that through Easy Home Search. So we have just to separate that expense where it's not totally carried by the real estate company because the referral company brings in income as well.
Sure.
So we have 5 ISAs there,
okay.
Which I manage them. Eventually, I'll hire somebody to manage them.
But all 5 of them, that they're part of Easy Home Search, and then you've got 1 or 2 of them that are expensed off and focus their time off just for Palms.
Correct. Yeah. So what we do is we have any market that Palms is in, they have an exclusivity with Easy Home Search.
Oh, good.
So we generate about 132, which is crazy, the swings, just because with the traffic swings, 130 to 180 leads a day right now. So in the system we have in place, like the ISAs hammer them for so many days. And then, we won't get into that, but they, so they do everything through Follow Up Boss is the CRM we use. And I've used them, Follow Up Boss, for I think 7 or 8 years now. If you go to followupboss.com, my head is still on the main page, on the home page.
What percentage, if you look at your business right now, over 110 million, probably climbed past that since you hit that threshold. What percentage of the business is agent generated versus company generated, would you say so far?
I would say it's probably 40 company, 60 agent, or 50-50, roughly somewhere around in there. Because there's other things that we have come up with through coaching with you that we gave it to them and said, hey, if you do this yourself and you pay for it yourself, then it's your own, it falls in your SOI split. So, if we counted that, we'd probably be 50-50.
So let's go back to the human resource place, because all this brilliance is critical and it's important and foundation. But if, our asset, we have an elevator asset, and, face it this way, our asset comes to the office building, rides the elevator up, but our asset rides it down and goes home, and our asset doesn't have to come back the next day. And so the key piece with retention, what would you say have been the key? Well, first of all, let's go to this. Whether it's agents leaving or you deciding to let agents go and where you're at right now, how many agents, what's your attrition look like since day one?
We've had 4 leave.
4 leave, 4 leave.
Yeah. So we brought 46 on, we've got 42. 2 of them were, they were coached out, as you would say.
Just not a good fit. Sure.
Yeah, not a good fit. And I think so 42, right? So 4 roughly right now.
Right. So when you take a look at this, and again, what I want to encourage you all to do is good artists cheat and great artists copy. As you're whether listening or you're watching this, is we haven't even seen the hockey stick that'll take place. Because keep in mind, you may say, okay, 40 people, 100 million. Well, this was a startup. And these people are coming on, some of them joining just today, a week ago. And so this organization has not even seen the impact of these recruits. What is it? You and I know this, Preston. People can argue it all they want to, and there's a bunch of people out there in your marketplace that have way better splits for the agent than you do.
100%.
What would you say is the key to, and they've got leads and they've got all kinds of wonderful things. We know it's not that. What is your secret sauce to retention? Especially in a startup, because by the way, here's what I'll share with, and I don't know if we've had the conversation, but I've shared it with many coaches. We've been around, you've heard it in the rooms probably for 4 or 5 years. If someone says to me, I'm doing a startup or I'm going to get going, I'm going to really go on a ramp up. And even if they've been in business for 4 or 5 years, but we're going to ramp up, quadruple agent size this year, I'll say 50% attrition rate is acceptable. It really, really is very, very normal. What has been the key to your retention?
I think it's the relationships we have. I mean, with the agents, with the leadership team. We did a Murph on Monday as a leadership team together. So it's having those relationships. Like we have a younger agent here who I text in the morning at 4:30 to get up, just because he wants to, do those things. So I think it's the personal relationships. To be honest with you, it's personal relationships, being, I don't want to say available, but being truthful and sharing. For me, I've actually shared a lot more in the last 2 months personally than I ever have in my life. And it's changed myself. I think it's helped me more than it's helped other people, is sharing those things that to get me. Because I could sit here and say, that what we've done since September is amazing, which is really a lie, because you really got to go back and see, what I've done up to this point to get from there, September to here. But also letting them know that it's taken a lot of work, but I think it's just the relationships we have with the agents. And I tell people, you can't market culture. Any company that's marketing their culture probably doesn't have culture. It's something you feel and you don't market. And I think when people come in the door and they see that, we have a weekly meeting everybody has to attend on Wednesday, doing those things and being available. Josh came up with coffee with leadership between June 15th and July 15th, where we're all available if anybody wants to reach out to us individually. It's just continuing to train and coach and do the educating and doing all the things, and they see us doing these things to get them better. It's obviously we want to be better as leaders, but we're doing all these things for them to become better as well. We're bringing 12 to Vegas in July. It's going to be nice and 120 degrees in Vegas. I gotta talk to y'all about that, but anyway, we won't go there. But
but it's dry heat, Preston.
Yeah,
Come
it's
on,
dry,
man, lighten up.
dry.
I'm here in Baton Rouge, dude. It's easy in Vegas compared to Baton Rouge. Come on.
Dry 120 degree heat. Yeah.
Well, here's what I want to point out, and this is so interesting because culture is so hard for people to quantify it. I want to do my best to do that, ladies and gentlemen. And I'd say it in this way. And what Preston's talking about is that vulnerability and humanizing yourself as a leader. And the more relatable you are, 3 things that humility, vulnerability, transparency. And because here's ultimately what keeps people's community. Money won't keep people. We've learned this. There's never enough money in a relationship to keep people. And you guys, do a really, really good job of that humility, vulnerability, and transparency. But the one thing I want to point out to y'all is people will hear this culture thing and, oh, it feels good, but it has to be rooted in principles. And that's the one key piece. You guys are unwavering about your principles,
Yes.
period. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about commitments, and, our core values are committed, trustworthy, ambitious, and I can't even think right now. Committed, responsive, trustworthy, and ambitious. Sorry, I know like the back of my hand, I had a little stumbling block there. But those things, we're committed. We're committed to the people that work with us. We're committed to our goals. We have those daily commitments where we can meet the goals. Responsive, meaning we're responsive to our clients. We are responsive in the technology that we focus on, and all those things. Trustworthy, we trust the person sitting beside us that are going to keep us accountable to the commitments we make. And then trustworthy, ambitious, obviously ambitious. We're all ambitious, so we have big goals, and we'll continue to move our goals higher and higher as we go.
Talk about ambitious and accountability, because we know this in our circles that we're in, and even circles outside of where we have a relationship. The greatest challenge is you look at someone like yourself, your time and money, the two, human resource and financial resource that you're putting out there, and all your peers put out there. Most of your peers are in the space of generating opportunities for agents. And the greatest challenge is that keeps all of you leaders up at night is squandered opportunities. Talk, a little bit to what that accountability looks like for you, because it's a question I'm asked all the time. Well, what do I do? What do the standards look like? How are you? Because naturally, to part of this ramp up, you look at the amount of business you're bringing in. Obviously, your agents are showing up in the database. Talk about how you're driving that activity. You can't just tell people do this and they do it. And then how do you hold them accountable? What's the inspection look like briefly? What's it look like for you to get, okay, I have confidence that I'm spending my money and my time to generate opportunities, and these people are taking action?
Yeah, I mean, so we they all use Follow Boss, and that's pretty much where we go to, like doing the things like, prospecting with leadership, right? So that's getting them to make the phone calls, and just going through and showing them and talking about some of the things that Josh has done, Nick has done to be successful. But then we have a leaderboard, and they got they have to get so many points a month within the CRM in order to be on lead rotation the following month.
And is that public, real quickly, so the people here, is that public accountability, that leaderboard? Or is it private accountability?
No, they walk into the office, it's scrolling on the TV every day. Yeah, it's on the TV every day, and the numbers are there, and they're for the week, for the month, and everybody sees them.
And so you haven't had an attrition problem or complaints or a retention issue or rumbling right now of people saying, well, that's public humiliation. You don't have any of that stuff going on?
No, I mean, I'll call people out myself. I mean, really, but no, not really. I mean, no, I mean, some people might jokingly, I think they're all used to it now. We've always been that way. Like, we've always had that up there from day one. So so we're getting, like, one of the ladies in our agent excellence program, she played sports in college, and we were walking her around the office, and when she stopped at the leaderboard and was like, oh wow, what is that? I want to be there. So they're seeing those things and getting excited about being up there and being a part of it. But no, and what's happening now, like with the prospecting with leadership, like there's a couple of people I know that need to prospect more, and I reached out to them and said, hey, I really need y'all to be on this day with me if you can. And we're all doing that. So I think, yeah, no, there hasn't been any complaints.
Yeah, good. I've got 3 more pieces that I want to hit on, 2 personal and 1 business. We're going to wrap it on the business side of it, because it's interesting what we believe in and strive for daily. Is we know that anything that's challenging us privately shows up publicly, And it's the same of what you're talking about, is going to these deep levels with your people. First thing I want you to talk about is how important to you, everyone running their own race, Preston, and that's where we connect at a big level in this. Talk about the importance of fitness, nutrition, and health and wellness, as you feel it has contributed to you personally, your family, and then also in the organization you lead.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like it's your superpower. Like everybody, if you could sit there and do things at a high level and you're unhealthy and you're not physically fit and that's not part of your daily plan. Imagine what you can achieve if you make that. And that's really for me. Like I was always always worked out, but not to the level I do now, where it's habitual. It's part of my daily habit. I mean, it's a habit now. Like it's as normal as eating breakfast. To me, like I see what I've done over the last 5 years, personally, professionally, it's made a massive impact. I mean, our leadership team, and we have a leadership team that we text each other every morning to make sure they worked out, and making that a big importance of, what we're doing. And we're doing that through the team as well. Like Josh just organized was a 5K like race, like terrain and crawling over stuff and everything else. So they did that. They did that as a
Stuff
team.
an old guy like me don't want to do anymore.
Yeah. Luckily my son had a birthday party that day, so I didn't do it. But we had about 12 or 15 people do that, and then the half marathon, we jokingly, I said, sure, I would do it. And I realized, I'm like, oh shit, I just text that and sent it. Did I really send I was going to do a half marathon with them? And I think we got about 12 or 15 now that are going to do that. So obviously health and staying healthy is a big part of what we do personally. And that's part of that commitment in our core values is our focus. We're committed to our health. We're committed to our family. We're committed to our team. We're committed to leadership and getting better all the time. And health is something it's super important for sure.
It's number 2 on the personal side. I think this is really important. It's been really neat to share with everyone your entrepreneurial spirit, but not only with that spirit, results, which require a lot of capacity. But one of the things I've watched is you don't miss whether your daughter has a recital, an opportunity to sing.
Yeah.
You're on the golf course with your son. You're on trips. I think you guys were just down in Destin or 30A. I'm figuring out all these places.
Rosemary Beach. Yeah.
Rosemary Beach. Yeah. Brittany's training me. Yeah, I'm a West Coast guy. Talk about, because this is the balance is, I don't know that it's possible. I think that rhythm is possible. Talk about your boundaries. Tell people, okay, you're doing all this stuff. Because it was neat, you shared this with me a while ago about your boundaries, why how your day is scheduled, and the reason it's scheduled so you're doing ABC in the schedule in your business, so you can do X, Y, Z. Break that down for people, if you could.
Yeah, it's funny. A couple of weeks ago, I was making my coffee. I was like, man, I feel like it's Groundhog's Day every day, because every day is exactly the same. We talk about this like a boring schedule, and which is fine. I love my schedule, but for me, like when school, so I get up every day at 3:45 or 4 a.m. And people are like, how do you do that? And like you say, focus on the night before. Don't talk about, what I mean? You need to focus on it's like commitments, to hit those goals. You don't focus on the goal. You got to focus on the steps to get there. So the same thing with getting up at 4, you got to focus on what time you're going to bed. So I get up at 4, I do content outlines. I do a lot of website stuff during that time. I actually switched it up. I now work out at 5. I start working out at 5 a.m. I'm done by 6. I wake my kids up, help my kids get ready for school with my wife, make my wife coffee, make her celery juice that she needs to have every morning, which are things I enjoy doing. Help my kids get my kids' lunches ready. By 7, we leave to go to school. And by 8 o'clock, I'm in the office working. I'll work until 4:30, which most of the time 4, because after 12 hours, I'm dead at 4. But it's all so I do all those things. My morning schedule is pretty much the same all the time, meetings and everything else. And then the afternoons, it kind of fluctuates on what's going on. But every day I'm done by 4:30. And, I'm able to doing that. I don't miss anything. Like I don't miss my kids' sports. I don't miss, I helped coach my kids' football team the other night for the first time. I see all the recitals. I see all the theater. I was able to play golf with my son. I just want to be there. Like I didn't, I grew up with a mom that, worked 3 jobs. My dad worked all the time. I never saw my dad at a game, and nothing it was what he had to do at the time. Right. So that was what he had to work. Somehow, I don't know how, my mom was always there. She was always at the game. She was always at all those things. And I want to be there for my kids, where when they look back, they could say, wow, my dad was always there. And that's a non-negotiable for me. And it will always be that way.
Well, I'd love to just end on that note, but I think everyone will hold that close. But I have one more question for you. We're hearing all kinds of different things. I just got some statistical data from an MLS. Year to date last year had 2,986 sales. Today, year to date, 1,250 sales. Down 66%. I hear down 22%. I hear down 10%. The obvious thing is things are changing. What would the advice be that you would give to other team leaders, broker owners, as we go through changes in the marketplace?
Just go back to principles, go back to the simple things. We talked about it in a podcast 2 days ago. One thing that realtors need to do the work. Like the work's been easy. They've been able to pay Zillow, pay realtor.com, paying all these things, and they just show up and they sell, and their ROI is amazing and everybody's buying and everything else. But you got to go back to the principles and doing the things that isn't fun to do, calling, door knocking, whatever it may be, and got to realize that it's going to take those things to be in business within a year, 6 months, 12 months, 3 years. And so continuing to do those things and focus on those things that, do the things that most people aren't doing. That's really for me. Like I always try to look at a problem, find a solution, and look for me, like even when I got in early on to SEO and everything else, I focused on automation and all the things. So, think about it, in 2004, automation really wasn't, automatic emails and all these things, and
Right.
nobody really did them. Right. So I was like the 10% that did them. Fast forward to 2015, everybody was doing. I'm like, well, I got to come up with. So we focused on ISA team, actually reaching out and calling people and talking to people. So that's really, you got to focus on those things, and you got to be educated, because people are doing more research, and you got to look at things like social media. People are going to do more and more research, and you got to clean. You might have to clean some things up, because they're going to research even more and more. And I shared this with Travis the other day. Something that, and it's not shared as much anymore, but one thing, like one of the lazy things that agents would do is when they were going on social, they were like, oh, it's a great time to buy historically low interest rates.
Right.
That doesn't matter. Anybody like me, I would dig into the data right away and be like, okay, well, historically low. Yeah, it was 10% in the 70s, but you could buy a house for $17,000.
Yeah, come on.
The average income was 10 grand, right? Then you go to 80, the average income was 22,000. The average price of a house was 45,000. Who cares if the interest rate was 10%? Affordability was a lot better. But when you fast forward to now, the average income is 75,000. The average house price is 350,000. Who cares if the interest rate is 3%, 2.5%, 5%, whatever it is? Yeah. It's affordability. Anybody could do simple math, right? And figure out, okay, well, back then, 2 years of income pays off a house. Now, 5 years of income pays off a house if you didn't have taxes or any other expenses. So I think it's doing those things and staying educated and staying on top of what's going on, because if you do have somebody, unfortunately, everybody pays attention to the news. And the news, what do they share? They don't share good news. So like you get inundated with it, I'm sure, just like I do. Every other email now is the housing collapse, the housing bubble, and understand why now is different. Like everybody reverts back to, oh God, it's going to be 2006 to 8 again. It's nothing like 2006 to 8. 2006 to 2008 was a disaster. Everything, appraisals, you probably remember them, ninja loans. no income, no job, no assets, but hey, I have a 700 credit score. I could borrow $1 million based on stated income. None of that stuff exists anymore. And I think that's what people got to realize, that, like Bill Pipes talked, not every recession is the same. And typically in recessions, the housing does okay. You don't see this massive correction of pricing, but it's doing those things, the calls, and creating that morning where you're consistent, because consistency will always win no matter what you're doing. If you stay consistent, you'll be successful. And I mean, it's really not rocket science. It really isn't. It's
Consistency wins. You want to live a sexy life, you have to do the unsexy things. With that said, so couple things. First of all, thank you. I appreciate you, honor you, the friendship, the relationship, the work that you're doing with us now to bring value in the coaching space. If you're interested in coaching with Preston, you can go to preston.cheplakllivecoaching.com. And where should they follow you? Give them the best contact details, websites for Palms, and also for Easy Home Search.
Yeah, I mean, Easy Home Search is just Easy Home Search, easyhomesearch.com. Palms is Palms Realty. It's palmshome.com. And they can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Preston at easyhomesearch.com is my email address.
Awesome, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, bud. See ya.